Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this evening's live stream. We have got a lot to talk about tonight. All sorts of things have been happening, all sorts of incidents. Well, you'll wait and see. Wait and see. We've got a lot to share with you. But where shall we start? Just while people are joining in the audience, I'll just remind you of the Scottish Family Party Conference. This is going to be in Glasgow in the afternoon of Saturday, the 11th of November. I've just put a link in the comments on YouTube and Facebook. Twitter, you can find it on our Twitter feed. So do get your tickets, only £10. It's going to be really good. So conference in the afternoon and then a drinks reception. So 6:30 till 8 o'clock, something like that, at the end of the day. So finishing with a social aspect as well. So do fire the comments in. Hello, Kirsty. Welcome to the audience. Right, a few people tuning in to watch now. So obviously the by-election campaign is the big news. So we've been working very hard with that. I'm joined, as you can see, by Niall and Phil. So welcome, Niall. Welcome, Phil.
Good evening.
Good evening, Richard. Thanks for having us.
Phil, I think you might be a bit quiet again there. But Niall, so tell us about it. What's been happening in the last week?
Well, there's a lot been happening. Exactly. I mean, we've got a pandemonium on the streets of Rutherglen. And you know, we're really bringing in everything that's happening in Scottish politics right to the one street in Rutherglen Main Street. You know, who knew that, 3 weeks ago when we were having a street stall that we would attract a whole protest against us and our being there. You couldn't write this stuff, but again, the people of Rutherglen are getting to see exactly what the problems are in Scotland right in front of their very eyes, which is interesting.
Yeah. And Phil, you were there on Saturday?
Yeah, that was good. It was a good energy out there on the streets. Great to see Niall behind the desk and chatting away to folks as they're coming past, and so many other people from the Scottish Family Party out as well. I think people have really kind of rallied behind Niall, so that's been great to see.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Still slightly quiet, Phil, maybe.
Yeah, let's see. It's pretty much on full, I think.
There we go.
Yeah.
One thing was interesting. We met, there's an SNP councillor, wasn't it? A lady was walking past. Someone got chatted to her. She said, I'm an SNP councillor. And I think it was in Rutherglen High Street as well. Not too long ago, we came across someone, a gentleman who was a Labour councillor. Was that right now? Was it in Rutherglen?
I think it was a Labour councillor, yeah.
Yeah, but certainly there's been one of each we've met in any case. And the same conversation has been had with both of them. Someone will say, our front and central message has been, man can't become a woman. So they'll ask them about that. And both the councillors, Labour and SNP, have answered in just about the same way in saying, I don't get into all that sort of stuff. I'm a councillor. I get on with practical things in the council. I don't have a view on that sort of thing. I'm not interested in that sort of thing. But it's really bizarre. Is that really true? Are they embarrassed by their party's own policies? I don't know.
You would have to imagine so. I mean, they're retreating for the very conversation, Richard. That's what we've witnessed by both the SNP and the Labour side. They don't want to have the conversation. They know intrinsically what's right. But again, they're afraid to say it. And this is the thing. This is what we're trying to bring to the fore. It's this fear of speaking out, this fear of being labelled. Is just as insidious as the lie itself, the sex change lie. So it's a sign of the times. So it was that they don't want to have this conversation. They really don't. I think more to the point, they can't afford to have the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. The cabaret against hate speech. They're making their racket on the other side of the road from us. I hadn't realised at the time, but an SNP councillor went and joined them and addressed I won't say crowd because there weren't that many of them. Yeah. But he went and had his turn at the microphone.
Yeah.
So I think, the SNP leaflet certainly will not be portraying themselves in that light. They keep all this sort of extreme progressivism out of their leaflet, out of their campaign. But that's what's driving them in many cases. When you saw the photographs from the little campaign meeting in their office, huge progress so-called pride flag in the background. I mean, some Scottish nationalists were saying, any room for a saltire in there, maybe? But no, there's a massive LGBT flag in there for all their publicity shots.
And interesting as well that, that big rally they had, Richard, all three of us were outside that building. And again, there wasn't much of a rally as so much as let's cram as many SNP members in one room as we possibly can, and then have a fake rally as soon as they walked in the door. All the fanfare begins, all the theatre comes out, all the clapping of hands. I mean, it's all theatre. We were right outside that building, and there was no rally at all. It was terrible.
No.
All
I would guess there were maybe 40 people there. I think we had about 40 people on the first day of the campaign. But you recognise so many of them. They're like half of them are councillors, and a few of them are MSPs, and a couple of MPs, and a few staff, and the Humza Yousaf's entourage or whatever, and a few kids, a few renter kids, which I think is totally wrong, lining up children for political campaigning photographs. But it was interesting. Phil, do you want to tell us any more about the goings on Saturday?
Yeah, so quite an interesting day. I think, and I've wanted to get out like so many weeks before this, and every week it's like, oh, can I do it? And then there's something else that we're doing that weekend, and so it was great to get out on the final weekend of campaigning. And so just getting out there, setting up on the street, putting the flags up, and then seeing people turn up from all over the place to come and support our by-election campaign. So that was really great. Congratulations to everyone in the party for getting out there. And then some kind of interesting opportunities and things like that. So there was one of the photographers alerted us to the fact that Humza Yousaf was coming to the SNP office, and so one of the things that Richard had is some images, quite graphic images of abortion, and the results of that. And these are things that we don't necessarily want to just stick out there on the streets. There's other groups that do that, and we don't disagree with them doing that. But we, as a party, it's something that we'd maybe think is not necessarily what we do. But where there's people that are really just supporting abortion, as Humza Yousaf, the position of the SNP is basically, abortion for any reason, within the legal limit. So Richard thought it was appropriate to hold this image up as Humza Yousaf was coming in, and there were photographers that took some photos of that. We haven't seen anything in the press yet from that, but yeah, that was quite a moment, I think. Do you have anything to say on that, Richard?
Yeah. Well, we have got one picture. It's not great, but it's clear that I'm there with a placard and Humza Yousaf's walking past. But these there's about 5 sort of freelance photographers, and they all seem to get themselves in position to get the shot of Humza Yousaf walking past the placard. So I'm sure all 5 of them have got it. But I think the press won't publish anything, partly because it's pro-life, and partly because it's related to the family party, and they won't give us publicity. So we're hoping to get some of those photographs. But the interesting thing that happened later on, we did that on the way in, we did it on the way out as well. On the way out, he sort of avoided it. But later on, I went and had my lunch in Rutherglen Shopping Centre, and I was just walking through the shopping centre, and a couple of police officers came over and stopped me and said, were you the person with that placard in there? So I said, yes, I was. They said, we've had complaints. I said, oh, there'll be complaints from a rival political party, will they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose so. And they said, some of them said they were very offended and upset by your placard. So I explained, I said, the reason it's there is because these are, we're showing them what their own policy involves, which I think is quite reasonable. So the police took my details and went away. I haven't heard anything. At the time, I said I didn't actually expect to hear anything from it. I mean, maybe I will. Maybe they'll come knocking on the door one day. But I don't think anything will actually happen. But the interesting thing is, what's the SNP's response? Immediately, you debate with someone, whatever. No, you phone the police. I mean, Humza Yousaf, he thinks the Police Scotland says personal brigade to deal with people who incur his displeasure. I mean, that's been apparent over for years. Actually, person after person who upsets him in one way or another finds themselves in court. So those classic Humza Yousaf. But so far, nothing's happened. But we shall see. I would imagine nothing will. But if they do, they'll just embarrass themselves. and we'll take it from there. So, yeah, that was that. I think that one of the other things with the by-election I'd really emphasise is if Labour win, and people look at the results, anyone who looks at those results and thinks, wow, this really shows that Keir Starmer's hitting the right note. Labour's policies are really resonating with the voters. Forget it. Forget it. That is absolutely not the picture at all. I mean, what did you hear on the doorstep, Niall?
The same thing I mean, people don't want to vote for Labour. This is the thing. Nobody wants to vote for Labour. They're viewed as just as despicable as any other political party in the sort of current climate. But the issue is that it's the almost entire contingent of the Labour vote is the anti-SNP vote, and this is a situation we're in now. Is that it's the best of the bad bunch. We've had the SNP in too long, and people are so disillusioned with them they want to move en masse to someone else. They see Labour as being the only alternative who can beat the SNP, and thus they're switching over to Labour. They don't want to vote for Labour, but they want the SNP out. Simple as that. And this is borne out between all the doors across all the constituency that we've done, Richard. And I'm hearing the exact same thing from all the other parties as well. Of course, Labour will tell you, oh, they're having a great day. Oh, everything's fantastic. We're getting great responses on the doors. But effectively, they're probably hearing the exact same thing as us. We're only voting for you because we want the SNP out. And they're probably saying, thank you very much. We'll take that. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And
the system's broken. Sorry, Phil, go.
Labour voted resoundingly for gender recognition reform.
Exactly.
That same as SNP. That was a big factor in Nicola Sturgeon's resignation, though she denies it, that her position was completely untenable once she'd kind of said Isla Bryson is a woman or couldn't say if he was a woman or not. Everybody could see that was completely a ridiculous position to be in. But Labour were really in that same position. Was there just like a tiny handful of Labour voters or Labour MSPs that voted against gender recognition reform?
There's again, they're just as culpable for this gender recognition madness as the SNP and the Greens. They voted for it in a higher percentage than the SNP in terms of MSPs. Yeah. So I mean,
from bad to worse.
Yeah. Exactly, but it's again, people view it's not only the anti sort of Gender Recognition Act madness thing that's driving people away from the SNP. It's the SNP's sort of nonchalant attitude towards this mass corruption. The millions being set on fire at Ferguson shipyard. The scandal after scandal. It's that as well as the whole gender aspect of it that are driving people away from the SNP. But to think that you're going to get anything better with the Labour Party is just farcical. But again, this is the logic that people are using in order to vote for the Labour. It's the anti-SNP vote. We just need them out first. It's almost like the Independence Party saying, you know what, all the problems will be fixed once we become independent. It's the same sort of argument. We need the SNP out now.
And you win nothing by getting another Labour MP in Westminster.
Nothing.
What difference is that going to make? One more Labour MP, it's not going to change the balance of power at all. Yeah. But having Niall in there, he'd stick out like a sore thumb, I think.
Yeah. Well, what I would say on it as well is that this what I think Labour are doing fantastically well. They don't know just how badly. In fact, they probably do know how badly the SNP are going to lose this election. But again, Labour are feeding on the fear of the SNP creeping back in. This is the situation. So they're saying, well, you better vote for us, because if you don't vote for us, the SNP are going to creep back in. But then we've not heard anyone on the doors. We've chapped 100 doors. There's not one person says, I'm racing at the door to go vote for the SNP. Not one. I mean, in fact, they chase you away if they think you're SNP. So again, they're feeding on this. I think it's a sort of electoral lie almost that I think SNP will be lucky to come second. They're lucky to come third or fourth, the SNP. But again, it's this fear of them creeping in that the Labour's capitalising on the now. That's another sort of factor in this.
Yeah. Yeah, the main message of all the big three parties is that they're not the other parties.
Exactly.
That's their main selling point, is that they're just a little bit different from the others. Yeah. Okay, let's then we've had hustings last night, haven't we? Let's play a clip. Right, this is Niall's closing speech from our hustings last night. It's a minute long. Here we go. Let's just watch this.
Still live in COVID lockdowns. Oh, that's fine and well, and should absolutely be debated. But in the real world, in the practical world, if we cannot defeat the simplest of lies, the most elementary of lies, this sex change lie, then we literally can't go on and fix any other issue. So long as basic truths remain questionable, we'll be forever stuck in the mud, forever going in circles, forever declining as a country, as a nation and as a people. Scotland needs the grown-ups back in charge, not the daft student union politics of the SNP and the Greens. This election I've shown this community that I've got the strength, the courage to stand up for my constituents in any situation, to shield them and their children for this rainbow cult. I will never apologise for standing up and speaking truth to power for this community. Thank you very much.
Okay. See the reaction for the Greens and the SNP.
Yeah.
Wow. The reaction's absolutely horrendous. I mean, I suppose I did take a direct swipe at the SNP and the Greens, but again, it's overdue. But it's more of a swipe at everyone. In my opening statement, I've just said, this lie has been able to permeate that a person can change sex, and all you need is a bit of paper to affirm that. And none of the opposition parties have been so hardline as us as to say, no, hold on a minute, we can't impose this legal fiction. And they've all just went along with it. They've all just cruised along as if nothing's wrong. And this is why we've ended up in the situation we are. And we have people like this. And people like ourselves railing back against this. I see some fantastic comments coming in. There was this one, and this question actually did come up in the hustings, is what is the SFP's stance on indie? So this was a great question and a great segue into why the Scottish Family Party is doing the most to bring the people of Scotland together. We are neutral on the point of Scottish independence. We're an eclectic group. I'm sure there's a few of us that support independence, there's a few of us that don't. But the fact is of the matter, we know that the independence question is so far down the list of priorities for people that it doesn't even register at the moment. We need to stabilise everything before we can even have this conversation again. So, again, and I'll let you tackle the question on how to promote traditional family values and stop the erosion in society. So I'll let you tackle that one, Richard.
Yeah, the independence thing, we're neutral. But we're not in favour of another referendum anytime soon. Not in the course of the next Parliament. The reservation we've got: if Scotland became independent with the current government would write its values and principles into the Constitution of Scotland, and that would be a very concerning development. How can we promote traditional family values, stop the erosion of society? Well, that's the day job for the Scottish Family Party. If you have a look at our policies, we've got pages and pages of them about how to do exactly that.
Can I ask you a question, Richard?
Yes.
Yeah. Do we, as a party, has it ever been our policy to be a pro-Brexit party?
No.
And so this is something
we're neutral on that as well.
I'm saying for Wikipedia, basically, is that that we've chosen to be neutral on these issues as a party, and Wikipedia, like one of the first things they say is like we're a pro-Brexit party or something like that. There'll be people in the party that are pro-Brexit. There are people in the party that are not pro-Brexit. That for us as a party, we're the Scottish Family Party. What we stand for is Scottish families, families in Scotland, and the issues that we're campaigning on are completely different to these kind of independence and greater unions and things like that. That we really think that these are a distraction when it comes to election time. That there are lots of the issues that we're fighting here as a party. You'll see the same issue in Europe. You'll see the same issue in Westminster. You'll see the same issue in Holyrood. it wouldn't really matter, who you went with, that they're all promoting a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
And so we're standing against the same thing. Some of the things you'll see in Europe, Westminster, Holyrood. If you want to see a change, vote for us. And this is just for the people that are writing Wikipedia. Want to get that on the record that we've got it officially on the live stream here, because then we can stick a little reference in, and maybe they won't edit it backwards as they always do.
Yeah. Our EU policy again is to respect the referendum result. But as Phil was saying, these are questions like it's like looking at how things are currently. It's like asking the question, where would you like the bad decisions to be made? Would you like the bad decisions to come from Brussels? Would you like the bad decisions to come from Westminster? Or would you like the bad decisions to come to Holyrood? That's the really big question of where the wrong decisions are going to come from.
Yeah.
I mean, let's focus on what decisions are made for a while. And,
can I point out another great comment by First and Last, and it's regarding to you going on the tattoo talk, Richard. So thanks to going on my brother's podcast. So I didn't know it was your brother. That's fine. You've got a great brother there. I watched the full broadcast on the tattoo talk, and I thought it was a really, really amazing hour. It was the most common sense, refreshing hour I've watched on YouTube in a very long time, Richard. So again, you spoke fantastically well, getting your points across. And I mean, can you talk about that podcast a wee bit? I mean, how you felt about it? I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good. It's really good. I think Gordon's got the knack of interviewing. You just feel like you're sitting there having a nice chat, and you feel like in these things you've got the opportunity to slow down and to explain things fully, beginning to end. You're not going to be interrupted. You're not someone trying to cut in on you. You can just put things out clearly, and then Gordon would respond, very intelligently. He's obviously understanding and has got questions to ask. Yeah, it was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I came out of it thinking I would just love to do more things like that. So maybe we could get Gordon on this. I don't know if Gordon's watching, but maybe he could come on the live stream sometime.
We had another interesting thing going out to Rutherglen, didn't we? That you had another passenger in the car. So
we won't. Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
Now there's another question I had. Someone else was saying we need a new party. We are the new party.
Yes, indeed.
We are the new party. Here we are. Are there any other comments you wanted to?
No, there was. There's a lot of good comments coming in. I'm sure if there's any more ones, I will highlight them as they come in. But I kind of stress the importance of sort of having the courage to vote out with the sort of traditional parties. The Labour, the Tories, the Lib Dems, and the SNP for that regard. If we could have the courage to vote out with that, we wouldn't be in this problem that we have now. We really wouldn't. And this tactical voting in order to get the SNP out, it feeds the machine. And this is why we're doing what we're doing. It's not that I'm splitting the Labour vote. It's Labour splitting my vote, guys, and our vote. It's not the other way around.
Yep, vote for what you believe in. That's Sarah. It's just looking at our policy booklet, just updating it. That's the thing on the back. It's time to vote for what you believe in. I did just answer to from Mr. Ratio here. If I was the First Minister, the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, the EU, the World Health Organization, I mean, you name them, my phrase ready for them is, thank you very much for sharing your advice with me. And then,
thanks, but no
that's
thanks.
What that's all it is. That's all it is. It's just advice. They don't set the agenda. They can offer their thoughts and we can reject them as we wish. And we can speak to, send us an email. Rosie, send an email to contact@scottishfamily.org. I'm sure we could fix up something there.
See, there was, if we're talking about the hustings as well, there was one person that actually stood out to me, and I couldn't help but agree with almost everything that she said, but it was Gloria Adebo of the Scottish Liberal Democrats. I mean, just the hustings alone, I thought she performed really well, and I spoke with her quite at length afterwards, and I thought she was fantastic. So there was a few sort of outstanding people at the hustings. Again, I think Colette Walker's a great place if you're an independent supporter to put your vote in. I really do think she will do well. But again, there wasn't much. I mean, the debate was so boring. The openers and the closer were good, but other than that, boring.
Gordon, yeah, great. We'll fix that up. Again, if you could, if you wouldn't mind dropping an email to contact@scottishfamily.org, as you've emailed before, let's get something sorted out. That would be great. Right, anything else on the campaign? We've got comments coming in thick and fast. Hello, Steph. Nice to see you. Thanks for your good wishes.
Yeah, it wasn't just you, Steph, who was delighted to see that.
Yeah. So, anything else from the campaign?
Well, I mean, other than that, I mean, the campaigns. I think I've really fought a tough and hard campaign. We've been on the streets of Rutherglen for basically 4 weeks solid now. I've gotten to know all the locals, all the local businesses. I really do think I've made a big dent. And again, you know, let's take our campaign at the off season. That's what my suggestion to us in the Scottish Family Party would be, is that the campaign doesn't stop just because the election goes off. No, let's do these things on the regular, and let's get people talking about the Scottish Family Party coming up to the next general election and beyond. But I mean, we've got all these political parties that as soon as the election's over, they're just down tools and you don't see them again until it's a month before the election. We want to be different, and we want a campaign and win the hearts and minds of people on the regular.
Yeah. So I mean, do get involved. Someone's asked here. I mean, Ross asking about North Ayrshire. Yeah, we've got a branch who have meetings in North Ayrshire. A relatively new chairman. Again, drop us an email at contact@scottishfamily.org, and we'll put you in touch with the chairman. That would be great. Was there another comment I was going to bring up? I think just to mention the conference, wasn't it? Yeah. So in terms of getting involved in more in a sort of ongoing basis, come to our conference and we'll be looking at ideas of how we're taking things forward. Last year's conference, Phil gave a talk about making the family party visible, where he got the flags made, and wow, what an impact they've had. What have you felt about the flags, having seen them in action over the year?
Yeah, it's great to see them out on the street. And I think they give us some presence, there. And I really want to agree with what Niall's saying. Like when we're out on the street, I think we were probably the largest presence out on the street. Do you think?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, Phil. And we have been for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
And but there is a lineup of parties and people campaigning out there. And so something I was seeing a bit of was that because people have walked past this wall of people that are handing out leaflets for different things, some people are like, oh, this is a bit too much, So I think what Niall's saying about campaigning in off season is a really good thing to get out there, to get the same kind of stalls out there, get out on the streets. And I think as well, we need to have some quite deep conversations with people as well. When you in the run up to election, you get some very kind of short conversations. You've got to try and reach as many people as possible. But what we're really wanting to discover in the off season is, the people that will become campaigners for the next election. And these are people that it's worth, having a good half-hour conversation with, because they might be thinking like, I want to join the party, I want to get involved and things like that. So, if we could double our campaigning base, before the next election, that would be amazing.
I mean, you must have seen a lot of that, in particular, Richard, people wanting to come up and getting involved in the Scottish Family Party over the course of this campaign. It's been really encouraging to see. I've personally had a lot of it, so I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah. Just one last thing from last Saturday. I mean, Niall and I had a game of pool, well, a tournament actually. I was wondering if Niall wanted to tell.
No, I think I'll just pass on talking about that. But I think, did we end up in a draw, or did I pot the black on the final frame? I can't remember.
You actually potted the black. The last two games.
Basically, I've grannied them and I've potted the black on the final frame. I mean, it wasn't much. That's what's happened, guys.
Basically, it was 5 times as good as me. And for the last 2 games, I all my balls were still on the table, and he got none left. But both times he potted the black in the wrong pocket or something or other. So I ended up winning 2-1. So I'm not going to play again. I'm quitting while I'm ahead. Any other game, it's all going to go wrong. Right, it's Mary. Oh, that's me there as well. That's me in the picture. Hello, me and Mary. Phil's talk at the conference last year about visibility was really good. It was. There was also people wearing the family party gear as well. That's really good to see.
Yeah, it is.
As well. It all makes an impact. Many supporters waiting for you in the local mosques, and we know because we've been there.
Yes, indeed. You want to talk a bit briefly on that one, actually, Richard? I mean, the response has been utterly fantastic from the mosques. I actually couldn't believe it. I mean, we've been to the Rutherglen Mosque just behind the sort of exchange, and then the Cambuslang Mosque. And each time we've been there, we've had such a friendly response, such an amazing response. And it feels like you can have a very open and honest conversation with the people exiting the mosques. Because, again, we're not different at all. We all want good family values. And, again, there's not much disconnection there. So I must say that all the parties, again, the Scottish Family Party are doing the best in terms of interfaith relations and race relations. It's just fantastic what we're doing. We are really crossing boundaries here and making huge inroads with every community. Yeah,
I mean, both mosques that we went to, people were so warm, and when they started to realise what we were standing for, they were, their faces lit up. It was great. It was great. John mentioned this as well. Elderly gay gentleman in Rutherglen explaining that he supports the SFP. Brilliant. Great. Welcome aboard. What odds are the bookies predicting? I don't know.
So the bookies,
we do know. Actually,
I do know. So I checked the odds on 365. So the best I've seen the odds were Sky Bet originally. As soon as the odds came out, I was sat in 4th place, 100 to 1. I think I've shortened up on Bet365, where I'm now in 4th or 5th place at 150 to 1. But it's worth sticking a wee fiver on, a wee tenner on it, I think, because seriously, we might be in here for like a serious upset. I think there is a chance of absolute victory here, and I don't state that lightly at all. But I think there is a big chance that we can actually this time next week I'll be sat in Westminster. That's a very high possibility. Well, it's not a very high possibility, but it is a possibility nonetheless.
Yeah, so get out there and vote, all of you in the constituency. There's so many people are frustrated that they don't live there. There's so many people. I wish I lived there. If only. I mean, it's quite simple, people. You just need to plan further ahead. When you hear about a by-election coming up, you can solely rent somewhere, can't you? You get your paperwork done. Come on, you can. You can move around the country, can't you, if you're committed to this? So, all right, that's the by-election. We've got a few other things to talk about tonight. I will try to talk about the things in the title, because my tendency is to put a title up and then actually pick other things off my list. So we've talked about Niall Fraser and the election. I was going to mention quickly again that the armed officers in London basically refused to carry guns, armed police officers, because one of the numbers been charged with murder, wasn't he?
Yeah,
charged with murder. So all the other armed officers, a lot of the other armed officers said, "All right, we're not doing it then." But I wasn't surprised. It reminded me, you might have heard me tell this story before, of a police officer, a retired armed officer I heard interviewed on the radio years ago, and he said that he decided, like 20 years before he retired, that he was never actually going to shoot anyone. No matter what the situation, he was going to miss, because it was just too scary. The moment you shoot someone, your life's destroyed. You spend the next 5 years in tribunals and courts and inquiries and whatever. Just your life is absolutely destroyed. So I've been paying this fella for 20 years to be an armed police officer, and he decided he was firing blanks, if you like, during that time. But any thoughts on that?
Well, again, we need to think generally it would be throwing support at the police officer himself. I mean, the sort of the personal implications of shooting someone, how does that affect the police officer mentally? So, but I mean, we've got, if you view some of the videos that are coming out of Britain now, We've got like open machete gang fights in the streets of Leeds. We've got mob attacks on shops, and we're taking the police officers sort of their ability to police away, and they don't feel safe policing. So again, we've got huge problems facing us, and we need people like us, again, the adults in the room, to have a proper conversation about this, because the police have got their hands tied. I really hate being a police officer at this time in this place.
Yeah.
It really would be horrendous.
Yeah, I think I'm naturally someone very much on the police's side, and the police put up with all sorts of abuse and terrible behaviour, and I don't think they should have to put up with this. No. So I would, the vast majority of things, I'm on the police's side. Just the unfortunate thing is they're politicized.
Yeah.
Take that away, and you're right behind them. Politicized, and also turned into like social workers in uniform. That's the pressure from the government. That's the SNP's pressure. I mean, if Scotland became independent, I can't imagine they would have armed forces. I can't imagine the SNP saying, right, this is the Scottish Army. They'd have to be called something else, something a bit cuddlier instead. If they had an air force, I can't imagine they'd say, right, that's a missile that explodes when it hits something.
No,
I just they couldn't bring themselves to do it. They're utopian. They're utopian. They think if you're just nice enough to people, people will be nice in return. So if we can just concentrate on being extra nice all over, which there's some truth in that, but it's not the whole story. Okay, that was as firearms, right? Fox, Lawrence Fox. Phil, have you been following the GB News saga?
Followed the thing. I think my view's fairly similar to yours, that it was the wrong issue for everyone to die on that hill. That what he said, I think, was offensive, and that I haven't listened to the full sort of debate that there was, so I'm not sure of the comments that the lady made, but they sound like just fairly standard sort of feminist comments. That we should have Women's Day, not Men's Day, and men's issues aren't as important as women's issues, and those kind of things. Which in itself is a view that we'd think is wrong, but you don't counter that by coming out with what Lawrence Fox came out with. It's not a logical retort to what she was saying. And I think she's right to sort of she's within her rights to take offence at that, because it's not the way that a debate on those subjects should progress. So I feel that he lost the argument on that one by trying to bring out that point. And I think it's for me it's a shame to see Calvin Robinson suspended, and maybe he'll be out of GB News. That if he was to lose his job over an issue, I would wish it would be something else other than that.
Yeah. I thought Lawrence Fox immediately hit the martyr button.
Yeah.
He didn't for a moment go to them and say, right, really sorry, I've messed up here. Let's see if we can work out a way forward. He immediately publicly laid into GB News ferociously. So he's burnt his bridges. It's inevitably going to be fired. It's almost certain it's going to happen. But what's bothered me is so many people just think freedom of speech means that you're not allowed to say, you shouldn't say that. That's not a good thing to say. It's very frustrating. And to me, that's like a form of extremism. If people think, freedom of speech, there's no such thing as speaking to someone badly. It just doesn't exist anymore. I think that's quite concerning.
Just briefly on the Lawrence Fox as well. I think, again, this is to a lesser extent, we're all victims of this, but this social media age where, only the most controversial opinions make it into the news. And again, this is perhaps played into Lawrence's sort of mindset going into that conversation. Well, I need to say something controversial, and I think that certainly must have played a part in why he said it. But on a different note, there was more videos of him. I think he was outside a pub and he was surrounded by radical trans activists, and it must have been 50 to 100 cops in a ring around him. So I just wanted to send him a sort of a message of support on that, because we've been through the same thing, and we understand the danger's only come in one direction, and he is facing a lot of danger right now, Lawrence. So I hope for his safety. And again, it reminds me, there was an article written by the Herald just 3 days ago, and the title was "It's Inevitable, a Politician Will Be Killed, Scotland's Rising Homophobia." And I'm reading it, and I'm thinking it's almost as if they're wishing violence to happen. It's inevitable that a politician, a Scottish politician, will be killed. And I'm thinking, I'm facing organised attacks in the middle of Rutherglen and organised, harassment on the streets of Rutherglen. And the danger's only come in one direction. I'm not a danger or a threat to anyone, but these people may be a threat to me. So I thought it was very irresponsible reporting, and we need to be thinking about these things. The danger's only coming in one direction, guys.
Yeah. With Lawrence Fox, I've had a few people take the line of, we should be forgiving, and I would agree with that. I think if you're running a news channel, it's up to them to decide, their policy and whether they can risk him saying something like that again. So that's like a business decision, if you like. Yeah, but if he were to say, well, he's already said, he shouldn't have said that. If he avoided similar things in the future, then, okay, yeah, you didn't write him off. But okay, we've got lots of comments coming in here. Let's have a look at those. Right, Neil put lots of pics on his Facebook campaign. Some really good shots of Niall. He's a natural at engaging with ordinary folk. That's true.
That's because I am ordinary. Yes, and we shouldn't be afraid to say that we're all ordinary folk. And I get along fine with everyone.
Niall's superpower is just to make friends with people within 10 seconds, and then just the conversation goes on from there. So that's brilliant. Right, what have we got? I go and refreshing listen to Common Sense in a world where it's a rarity. Right, that's great. Gordon's discovered us, so yeah, we'll see you on the screen before too long. Right, that's about Lawrence Fox, I assume. He's had a few drinks. Very possibly, yeah. Probably drinking and broadcasting is probably not a great combination.
Don't drink and broadcast.
Yeah, need a government information campaign about that. Right, let's have a look at some other issues. Right, let's make sure I get through my list first. Kate Forbes. 2 issues with Kate Forbes. Right, the first one, she was hailed as a genius in the Telegraph for coming out with some comments on Scottish education, which I have to say, her comments were so brilliant. Do you know where they came from?
Oh, yourself, Richard?
Yeah, Scottish Family Party Manifesto, basically, yeah, the things we say, yeah. So she basically gave a bit of Scottish Family Party education policy, and the Telegraph was saying, this is the best anyone's ever been heard in the Scottish Parliament. Well, it wasn't in the Parliament. Yeah, best that we've ever heard about education. Because she basically said, closing the attainment gap, the way they're trying to do it is if you make everything so easy that so everyone can do it, then you've closed the attainment gap. Really? You're saying this is not the way to go. I mean, it's sad, isn't it? That's regarded as a genius insight.
Genius
in Scotland. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? But it does need saying, because that is the strategy of the Scottish government, to make things easier and easier to cheat in them, so everyone gets the same, and then you close the attainment gap. So I actually put on Twitter that to Kate, I tweeted to Kate and said that we'll send you our updated policy booklet soon. So if you want to borrow any other parts from it,
she would be a great addition to the Scottish Family Party. May I add? I think Kate Forbes, if you're listening, same with Fergus Ewan. Actually, I mean, there's only one way this political gravity is going, and it's towards the Scottish Family Party, and it's all flowing towards us. And if I'm sure we would welcome Fergus Ewan and Kate Forbes in.
We welcome Lisa Cameron as well. Lisa's in the process of being deselected because she refused to back a sort of homosexual MP who was accused of abusing a male, inappropriate behaviour with a male colleague, and I think it was found to have taken place. But the SNP initially said, right, we've all got to get behind this bloke. And she said, well, no, I don't want to do that. So they've turned on her, and she's probably going to lose her seat, lose her role as an MP. So Lisa, I haven't met you, but be happy to meet. Come on board. John Mason, of course, the invitation is always open. All the people with good values in the Labour Party as well. Okay. Lib Dems, Greens,
No.
Conservatives.
Conservatives, there would be a few that I pick up. Definitely not Jamie Green, Sandy Sculliam, or Jackson. Anyone that voted in this GRR debacle.
Yeah. There's a smattering in the Conservative Party, a small smattering. Yeah. Let's put it that way. So, yes, our doors are always open. During the SNP leadership campaign, I put something out saying we've got a vacancy for our deputy treasurer in our Dingwall West branch. And if Kate Forbes wanted to apply, then she would be welcome to. We would consider her application, but the ball's in her court on that one. All right, that's one thing about Kate Forbes. The other one was, I found this quite interesting. Douglas Ross stood up, I think, at the Conservative Party conference.
Yes,
and he said, "I have been in discussion with like SNP MSPs who are rebels against the government, basically, and we have been discussing how to bring down the coalition, how to get bring down the coalition between the SNP and the Greens," which is pretty dramatic stuff. Because he said there's been secret talks. So you think, obviously, well, they're not secret anymore, are they?
Yeah.
I mean, if you were having secret talks, as soon as you talk about them publicly,
no longer
you've blown it. Now, Kate Forbes denied this in the most ferocious terms, in quite a sort of personally offensive email to Douglas Ross. I mean, who else could it be? And I ended up thinking, did Douglas Ross just make this up as a tactic to sow discord in the SNP?
It wouldn't be out with the realms of possibility, Richard. And this is the thing, that it's the political gamesmanship. We don't know what is true and what isn't false. I mean, this is the thing. We don't know. It's all smoke and mirrors. I mean, the Tories will do anything to stay relevant up here as well, which does include making stuff up. I mean, it's obviously there are disgruntled people in the SNP, but for them to go across to the Tories to try to end dispute House agreement, no, it doesn't ring true to me.
No. I would say to the SNP MSPs, club together, bring together a defamation or slander case against Douglas Ross. Because how do you prove it? You just need a witness statement from all 100, whatever, I don't know, 60 odd or whatever, SNP MSPs. If they all made a statement saying, no, this is absolutely false, then they could nail that. Because I'm inclined to think that's not true. I'm inclined to think he's made it up. If it was true, as soon as you speak about it, you've blown it, haven't you?
Yeah.
In any case.
Yeah, you would think that if that was happening in the background, he would keep that under wraps for as long as possible until such time as they had a critical mass of people to end the Butte House agreement. That would be the logical way to do it, right? But no, of course, logic's gone.
Yeah. So there's my tip. SNP, club together, bring the legal case, and let's get this sorted out. Because if they are up to that, just making things up to disrupt other parties, that is reprehensible, and I hope they don't get away with it. Right, I've been through all the things on the list. Let's have a look at other things we've got.
Shall I speak about the 40 Days for Life?
Yeah, Phil. Fire away.
I'll see if I can share this on the screen. Let's see. Share screen. Let's see.
I'm not sure you can share screen as you are now. I can't see it in the.
I'm just trying to, if I can. Let's do it with window. Okay. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah, there it is.
Is that sharing? Is that on the screen?
Yeah. There we go.
Okay. Yeah. So this was this is the Chalmers kind of sexual health clinic, but abortion is one of the big things which is kind of happening there. So there's a protest called 40 Days for Life, and it's a protest where Christians pray. And we're on the opposite side of the street. And because it goes on for 40 days, there's never like this large crowd of people outside the clinic, mostly praying very quietly, holding up small signs, which, I was holding one which says, choose love. And it's got a picture of, a fetus in the womb on it, just like a logo-like picture on it. And as we were out there, you get some positive reactions, some negative reactions. And this guy who was not happy with what we were doing, he came and he kind of stood in front of us to try and block the signs that we were holding up. And then a bit later, another guy came across on the other side of the road, and he thought this other guy was with us. He thought he was like our bouncer or something like that. So he started shouting at this other guy, like, "What are you doing with these people here?" And he said, "No, I'm trying to block what they're doing," kind of thing. And so this other guy came up to this original guy and then said, "Come with me," and they disappeared off to like a bus shelter and chatted about something. And you could tell that this other guy was up to something, and then the first guy came back and stood in front of us. And I kind of tracked him back up the street, but then he disappeared. And then about 15 minutes later, what I felt was kind of just milk being poured down over me. So this guy had come back with this, this big thing of milk, which he'd chucked over all the people that were there. The other people got milk over them as well. It's just like, you see that when you stand on these issues, there are people that are, it's not us which are being violent or anything like that. We're there, like, simple message, like, choose love. This sign shouldn't be offensive in any way, really. It's just telling people to make the choice for life, really. That we see thousands upon thousands, like tens of thousands of human lives taken every year in Scotland from abortion, and we're saying, please make the right choice on that issue. These are human lives, just like I'm a human life, you're a human life, and that's what happened there. So yeah, I want to encourage people to, we're saying, like, what should we do? Should we go back, or should we stay out? And so we decided to stay out. But also I had to, like, go and pick up my daughter from school, straight after that. So luckily I was able to, just take my jacket off, and most of the milk was on my jacket and not on other things like that, and fold it up, things like that, But I would encourage other people that are interested to get out to these prayer vigils, and to make a stand. Yeah.
Sorry that's happened to you, Phil. I had no idea that happened to you. Again, it brings back the toxicity in Scottish life just now, when you can't stand and hold a sign peacefully like that. Phil, it's just shocking.
Yeah. Just then, before Today's for Life, nobody described themselves as a vigil rather than a protest. But we just get fierce reactions from some people. They get a lot of support, but fierce reactions from some. And the reason is that the Scottish government has stirred up hatred against them, and the political establishment, the media as well, have stirred up hatred against the people in the vigil. I always come back to Emma Roddick, the liar Emma Roddick, SNP MSP, who said that these vigils violently prevent women accessing healthcare. So I'll say again, Emma, you are a liar. I mean, get your legal team on the case if you like. Let's fight this out in court. But I will keep saying, Emma, until you retract that, you are a liar. And in line like that, in the Parliament, you're stirring up hatred against people. Yeah. And this is the way it comes out. Before the vigil started, they received a death threat as well. This was through the website. Someone said, I'm in Scotland. And the person said, I'm going to follow the women home from the vigil, and I'm going to rape them, and I'm going to stab them.
That's disgusting.
So that was what was received. Now, normally that's a surefire news story, isn't it?
You would think.
People get death threats. Normally, it's quite routine to read a story about someone receiving a death threat. So I sent this about the milk being poured over people and the death threats. Sent it as a letter to all newspapers, sent it to all the TV channels. You know what's coming next, don't you? And how many responses, how many of them picked up on it? Zero. Because they just keep the narrative of these nasty people, harassing, molesting, intimidating people. And the reality is completely the opposite. But the media and the politicians just present an absolute fiction instead. If you do want to get involved with that, if you're in Edinburgh, in any case, email contact@scottishfamily.org and we'll put you in touch rather than we give a garbled email address. So, have you got your conference tickets yet? People who are watching there, thanks for all the comments. But do get your conference tickets to Phil. Anything else to say about that, or is that are we doing that?
I think that's what's there to say about it, but I would encourage people to go out. Like, I mean, for me, I think that getting milk poured over you compared to what's actually happening to these human lives in the womb is nothing really, and so if you believe that's what is really at stake here is lives, I'd encourage you to get out as well.
Yeah. Just to say to everyone watching, that Mary, that is a joke. So don't someone come along with that squirting honey all over them next week. Okay, that was not intended to be literal. Right, we've got 4 minutes. I've got one little story to tell you to finish off. We sometimes hear stories from pupils in schools, and I heard a story from a play. This was a live play, so the government's basically spending a lot of money paying actors to go around to schools doing this play, and the theme of the play was how tough it is to be a young person these days. And that's pretty inspiring, isn't it? So really negative, depressive. And the storyline was about a girl who wanted to study to get into university, but at the same time, she wanted to save the planet. She wanted to be a climate activist. And it was so tough trying to decide how to spend your time, because you want to be campaigning for climate change all the time, but you still do need to do the work. It's so tough being a young person today. So she was grappling with the tensions of life for a teenager today. But then one of her best friends, who was supporting her through this trauma, one of her best friends got a job in a plastic factory.
Oh, no.
And this just wrecked the relationship. I mean, how can you be friends with someone who works in a plastic factory? I mean, that's just this is a serious play now. I mean, so the relationship was wrecked. But then the person working in the plastic factory, they sort of had a moment of enlightenment and repentance, and they started a sustainability club in the plastic factory, so they could be friends again, and it had a happy ending, and it gave the young people some hope at the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's no King Lear or Romeo and Juliet, but I can see this is the social justice version of that. I mean, it's just. We need to get back to basics. I mean, this is just typical sort of. I mean, nobody wants to be performing it, and you would have to pay the actors a huge amount of money to do that, because no one would want to actually do that and perform that day after day, But yeah, it just shows you where we are in the world. But
yeah, there's some good news. Sorry, Phil, do you want to say anything about the?
No, I was inspired. Actually, it left me contemplating.
There's a happy ending though to the story. The happy ending is apparently the kids all thought it was total trash.
Yeah,
and were fed up having been made to sit through it. So there's hope. There's hope in the end there. So
we should tour around after the. Is it a film or is it a play?
As a live play. This is like real actors.
We should be outside there with our stool, I think.
Like an exit poll. Did you like it? Did you know?
And our flags,
yeah. So what? When the Scottish elections come round, I think we should campaign at schools, because they can vote at 16.
Yeah.
So how could anyone possibly complain about that? Right. Thank you very much for your comments. We've had a bumper crop of comments tonight. That's been great. Thank you, Niall, for coming on.
No,
and we're looking forward to Thursday.
Yeah,
so I don't need to say go and vote, do I? I mean, you're all going to vote for the family party if you're watching.
Yes, I mean, this is the thing. Our voters are more energised than anyone else, Richard. That's the thing. People can't wait to vote for us. Whereas again, all the other parties, it feels like it's a hard affair to, get out of your bed and go, I suppose I'm going to vote for them. I'm going to put, I suppose I'll give them. Whereas our voters are like, yes, they're up and at them, and they've crossed it right away. and they know exactly who they're voting for. You know,
and just to clarify, there's a new rule in the election this time. It's the first time they've had it. When you go to vote for the Scottish Family Party, you have to take photo ID with you. So take your driving license or passport or something. You've got to take photo ID. If you're voting with the other parties, apparently you don't need that. You don't need that at all. You just go. But if you're voting with the Family Party, you definitely need to take photo ID.
yes.
So just bear that in mind. So, right, thanks for watching, everyone. People watching live, people watching later as well. Well, more people watch later than watch live. But thanks for tuning in, and see you next week. Thanks, Niall. Thanks, Phil.
That's a pleasure.
Good night.
Yeah, it was good to see you all.